My name is Cal Bennett, and 3 things happened before breakfast that changed my life for good. I looked down from my drone and saw a brand new neighborhood sitting dead center on my land. A storm rolled in, like it had a grudge, and a certified letter showed up saying the HOA was suing me for not warning them about the swamp. I've been warning folks about since I grew my first chin hair. That's the hook, right? A man minding his business, and then boom. Fancy mailboxes on his marsh, and a lawsuit with his name spelled perfect. Yeah, that happened. I live in Lowridge County on the Georgia coast, where the air is heavy and honest, and the ground remembers everything. My granddad walked Sparrow Fen with a compass and calloused hands. My dad kept the lines straight with a shovel and a soft voice that could harden when it needed to. And I spent 25 years as a floodplain guy, drawing the bones under the dirt, so people would stop arguing with gravity. I saved every plat, every core sample, every map with my granddad's blocky handwriting in the margins. People tried to buy my land, Shore resort outfits, and earth-tone visionaries, private glamping floating wine bars. You name it. I told them what I tell everybody. 70% of this place is water in a mood, and the rest only looks flat until the first real rain. So if you want a headache, go ahead. But I'm not selling home. Then the drones started. Not the Christmas toy kind, the quiet ones that shadow your coffee. They circled Sable Hollow, a part of the basin where even fiddler crabs walk light. I took my own drone up, and the bottom fell out of my stomach. There it was, Blue Heron Landing Road carved through my pines. Curbs poured clean frames up a basketball hoop like a flag, temp tags on SUVs, folks on porches, acting like they signed the deed with God. I thought, Cal, you misread the pin, so I laid my footage over the county parcel grid, and no dead center on my land. I drove to town, pulled the GIS, toggled the zoning layer, and a new rectangle slipped over mine like a sticker. 31 lots, owners listed as Candle Scent LLCs, and 1 line that burned my eyes. Land leased by prior agreement. Long-term usage rights secured. I don't lease this land. I don't lease my hammer. The clerk said maps can auto-adjust during development registration. Auto-adjust. Like your neighbor's dog auto-adjusts into your living room. Whenever the door swings open. You know what I mean? I kept my temper, printed everything, and drove to the new gate where herons used to land. A kid in a polo stepped out like he'd practiced in a mirror. Are you a resident or a guest, sir? Neither, I said. Then you'll need to turn around private community. Son, that private community is sitting on my land. He said the HOA documented everything and suggested I call the county, so I did. And the county said, civil matter, call the court. And the land commission said. The approving official, a man named Norman Pike, had just retired after rubber stamping a runway of permits. I filed complaints until the toner smell got in my clothes. Then the storm came, not a hurricane, just a stubborn low that squatted over us and wrung itself out for 20 hours. By noon, the fancy asphalt had a fishback shimmer. By 2, the retention pond jumped its berm and chewed through the main slabs. Smiled, crooked, a foundation, split like a bad tooth sewer. Lids danced, and the news vans found their good side. At 3, a certified envelope landed on my step. According to Blue Heron Landing HOA, I had knowingly failed to disclose hazardous conditions during review, which made me responsible for the mess. I laughed and coughed in the same breath. That evening, a handful of wet, angry folks stood at my fence. One woman yelling about her kids sleeping over sewage. A guy holding a cardboard sign that said, "You knew another." Throwing a rock that spiderwebbed my front window. I didn't call the sheriff. I stood on my porch and let the rain drip off my nose and said, "Plain, you're on my side of the line. You can walk back to yours, or you can wait for trespass paperwork." They stared, a few peeled off. The woman cried real and quiet. When they were gone, I pulled out the old soil cores labels, faded, but readable. Unstable high water table, unbuildable without deep pilings. I called the meanest kind person I know, a land rights attorney from Savannah named Renee Calder, a woman who smiles like a Sunday school teacher and cross-examines like a buzzsaw. She drove down. Same day, looked at the window, the lawsuit, the ridge, and said, "Cal, if they want to play dice with the tide, we'll make sure the table is level." Renee filed an emergency injunction to freeze construction, and Sales filed a countersuit for trespass fraud. Slander, seizure of private property. Then she called a reporter who'd been itching to run a story since the day asphalt showed up where the herons used to step. I'm not a camera guy, but silence looks like guilt when the other side buys better microphones, so I walked him through drone footage before and after, unrolled the maps with Granddad's margins, held up the soil reports like x-rays. He asked what I wanted. I said I wanted the truth to have the same money as the lie. Then came the twist. A week earlier, a silver thumb drive had appeared in my mailbox with no note. On it, HOA emails. Most of it was fence heights and paint codes, but buried in a thread called Launch Readiness was gold with fingerprints on it. From Tessa Caldwell, president of the Blue Heron HOA, the face that loved ribbon cuttings. Yes, the geotech says wet. Yes, drainage needs work, though. We are not paying for pilings. Floating slab is fine. Sell fast transfer to HOA before next rainy season. Worst case, we position it as mitigation. Keep Cal off our backs. There it was. Knowledge dismissal strategy, my name like a gnat in her wine. The paper ran it. Developer knew the risk, blamed the local. The radio had a field day. The bait shop crowd clucked Tessa held a press conference in a cream blazer and said the county approved everything, and no one warned her. When a reporter asked if due diligence was her job, she smiled like morning TV and said we had permits, and besides, the landowner sat on information. I didn't break the TV, I called Renee. She said, "Thank you, Tessa, for the free exhibit." 2 days later, the man who'd held the "You Knew" sign knocked on my door, introduced himself as Eli Vargas, claims analyst for River Mutual, the company currently telling Blue Heron homeowners that poor judgment isn't a covered peril. He held a manila folder like a confession. "I was wrong about you," he said. Inside, backdated insurance binders, phony certificates of occupancy, dates that didn't match concrete or weather Tessa's signature where it didn't belong. Renee sent copies to a federal inbox, and the insurers sued the Blue Heron LLC before the ink dried. We needed one more thing, something from Tessa's own mouth. So I put out a press release that read, like surrender. I'm open to discussions about land currently occupied by Blue Heron, provided good faith compensation and restoration. It was bait with a bow. Tessa called from a blocked number. 12 hours later, Mr. Bennett. "I'm glad you've come to your senses. Miss Caldwell, I aim to be sensible daily." We met in a rented office by the river, carpet, coffee, and fluorescent lights. She brought 2 suits and a binder big enough to boost a child at supper. Renee set a recorder on the table like a coaster. Tessa started with the showroom smile. "We are prepared to offer a generous one-time payment for transfer of land rights. We know this has been trying for you." "For me," I said, because the word fit. She named a number that would buy me a roof and a used boat. I laughed once and said, "You've got more to lose than I do, those backdated policies, the forged COs, the emails about skipping pilings. Eventually, someone goes to prison." Her smile slipped, and then she said the quiet part out loud. "I have every inspector in my pocket. They don't care where we built people signed, and if anyone's name is on the dirt, it's yours." The air conditioner hummed like a witness. Renee didn't bother hiding her grin. The federal inquiry letter landed the next morning. Blue Heron's assets froze like pond ice. A week later, the judge set a court date and handed out subpoenas like cards. Inside, the first day was dry and necessary. Deeds plats, GPS overlays. My hands tracing where water insists on going. Day 2 got sharp. Emails on the big screen. Tessa saying, "No, we are not paying for pilings" audio from the river meeting, where she bragged about inspectors in her pocket and tried to hang the dirt on me. Day 3 brought Eli to the stand, explaining in plain English how a policy can be made of paper and still be a lie, how the money moved from Blue Heron to a consulting company that fed Norman Pike 3 meals a day and a slice of his soul. The ruling wasn't fireworks, it was precise. Blue Heron declared fraudulent assets stayed plat maps, corrected forged lease voided kickbacks, sent down a brighter haul. And months later, Tessa got 12 years, and Norman got 9, on a plea that read like regret. Demolition crews took the frames in the fall. One house collapsed under its own bad plans, before the excavator could swing, like the marsh had been holding its breath. By winter, the curbs were cracked, and the lamps leaned like men after a long fish fry. Lowridge College flagged part of the basin as a study zone. Kids in rubber boots counted birds and salt, and I gave a talk I never thought I'd give about how land tells the truth and waits you out. Eli showed up with his kids, and a wooden sign he carved in his garage. "Right land, right hands," and I drilled it into the dock so the moon could read it. I don't gloat. Most folks in those houses didn't set out to trespass. They bought a picture and a promise and got a lesson on hydrology the hard way. But I'll say this. If a community isn't honest, it's just walls. And when you build on a lie, the first real rain wants a word. So tell me straight, who do you hold most responsible here? The HOA, the developer, the county, the buyers who signed, or the old man who wouldn't lease what he couldn't get back? If it went wrong, drop your take in the comments, argue if you need to, and if you've seen a neighborhood where the marketing was louder than the soil, tell that story too. If you're with me on this type, right land. Right hands, hit subscribe for more real stories. Where the ground fights back, and share this with the loudest HOA on your street. I'll be on the dock listening to frogs hand down the same verdict they always do.